Hi, my name is Edward Jie. I'm the chairman and CEO of Gaofeng Advisory Company, a strategy and management consulting firm with roots in China. Recently, we have started an initiative to help companies, in particular Chinese companies, to grow in Africa. That initiative is in partnership with Chinsawa. And today, I'm very delighted to have the CEO of Chinsawa, Joshua King, to be online with us to discuss how we could help companies, in particular Chinese companies, to grow exponentially in Africa. So let me begin by asking Joshua, tell us about your background in Africa and what is your own story?
So, hi, Edward. It's definitely a pleasure to be here today. Definitely appreciated. So, my journey with Africa began close to 12 years ago. In 2009, I essentially started to build a network of successful UK-based entrepreneurs who was successful across East and West Africa. And then going to 2012, I essentially started to visit Uganda. And from there, I fell in love with the continent. And for me, the biggest thing that I recognized close to a decade ago was that Africa was a region that was experiencing exponential growth. So in 2012-13, I raised some investment capital from UK-based investors, and I partnered up with a co-founder and actually relocated to Uganda. And from there, I partnered with several Chinese and Shenzhen-based tablet PC manufacturers and curated a bundle consisting of portable solar, the digitization of textbooks, and tablet PCs, supplying telecoms, banks, and universities across Africa. So that entrepreneurial element allowed me to actually travel and build teams across Uganda, Kenya, Ghana, Nigeria, and Zimbabwe. And from that, I then returned to the UK and spent the next 6 years contracting with several American, Chinese, and African software, fintech, and blockchain startups. And that was a really exciting process because what I saw on the ground was that Africa had a leapfrog potential. And through that leapfrogging, there was immense opportunity when it comes to technology, leveraging innovation to solve infrastructural deficiencies. And there was a massive openness to receiving collaborations, partnerships, and investment internationally. And that welcome from Africa was huge to see on the ground. And then fast forwarding to today, essentially I run Chenwasa, which is a Pan-African growth and innovation consultancy. So we currently work with government, startups, and with corporates across the continent, supporting them succeed and grow revenues. And then we also, of course, have a partnership with Gaofeng Advisory to empower Chinese market leaders to succeed in Africa. So very excited about the future of China-Africa engagement.
Fantastic, Joshua. Could you elaborate more on why Africa and why now?
Yeah, sure. So in regards to Africa, what's exciting is that today we're seeing essentially that between today and 2050, the population of Africa is going to double. That doubling will be from 1.3 billion people today to close to 2.4 to 2.5 billion people by 2050. And that single demographic trend alone will open up a huge amount of opportunities to companies to provide services across consumer, food, clothing, logistics, and so forth. Adjacent to that, we're also seeing that Africa's combined GDP will scale from $3.4 trillion today to $29 trillion by 2050. So that's actually an 870% growth in GDP. No other nation or region on the planet will match that level of GDP growth over the next 29 years. And with that, it's going to come massive, massive opportunity for impact, sustainable impact, and for growth. And then what we're seeing on the ground in Africa is that the opportunities are immense across a multitude of sectors. So everything from the auto industry to fashion and art to renewable and sustainable energy to technology, logistics, food, agriculture, and construction. So what's the most exciting is that it doesn't matter who you are, where you're based, what your skill set is, or what your business is. 9 times out of 10, there will be an opportunity for you to actually launch into Africa, create impact, create change, and provide services on the continent. So that's massively exciting going forward. And as I briefly touched upon before, Africa has the tendency to leapfrog. So we saw in the case of Kenya that they went from 90% of the market using cash to now 85% of adults use M-Pesa, which is a mobile payment solution. And now you have over 52% of Kenya's GDP. So over half of their GDP is flowing through this mobile payment platform, which again, nowhere else on the planet has matched that level of growth in mobile payments in such a short space of time. We're now seeing it in the energy industry, where Africa is going straight to decentralized renewable energy as a way to plug the gap of over 600 million people who are yet to have electricity. So we're seeing in Africa that if you have innovation and innovative ideas, if you can marry that with capital and executive power, then you can really have the opportunity, a once in a lifetime opportunity, to actually simultaneously impact hundreds of millions of people, create a profit whilst doing so, and whilst innovating in a way that hasn't been done before. So there's a unique opportunity to really create impact and be that change you want to see in the world.
Wow, that's really fantastic and extremely exciting. So in that context, what can Chinese companies offer Africa, and vice versa? What does Africa offers to China?
Yeah, sure. So in regards to what Africa offers China, I would say it's a unique opportunity to grow in an exponential way. So if you look at traditional markets like the US and Europe, and even some parts of Asia, a lot of the exponential growth opportunities and low-hanging fruit have actually been serviced by existing companies over the past few decades. But then when you juxtaposition that scenario to the continent of Africa, what you actually see is that there's still opportunities where you can actually, in a lean and scalable way, impact tens of millions of people. So in terms of what Africa offers China, the biggest thing is definitely humongous growth opportunities, where if you look at where China was 25 to 30 years ago, and the massive amounts of opportunities that there were for logistics, for construction, for energy, for e-commerce, for fintech, for tech, that's what Africa is today. So essentially, it allows Chinese brands to actually leverage a lot of learnings that you've accumulated over the past 4 to 5 decades to actually leverage that in a unique way in Africa. The second thing that Africa offers is an open place for doing business. So if you look at the anchor nations across the continent, such as Kenya, South Africa, Nigeria, Egypt, Morocco, Rwanda, Ghana, you're seeing that the presidents and the leaders of these nations are really, really keen and excited about the prospect to industrialize and to accelerate development. So it's a development first approach, and that governmental and policy essentially complements the fact that Chinese brands will want to invest, leverage their expertise, and create impact on the ground. So you're seeing an alignment where governmental policies, special economic zones, tax incentives, investment incentives are aligning with what typically investors would want to see to be motivated to actually invest and create impact on the ground. We're seeing that there's an explosion of innovation, and this innovation is creating a plethora of opportunities for strategic partnerships. So you're now seeing that, for example, if you just take Nigeria, you're seeing that a company called Paystack has successfully just exited for a $200 million valuation to Stripe. They were 4.5 years old. You're seeing that Sendwave, a company that was founded in 2014, has just sold for $500 million to World Remit. You're seeing that a fintech brand in Nigeria called Flutterwave has just hit $1 billion valuation after raising $170 million Series C round. And then you're also seeing companies like Interswitch and Jumia, who's listed on the stock market, achieve billion-dollar or unicorn valuations. So Africa is now in its growth stage where there's an explosion of innovation. The world is starting to wake up, and that level of innovation is opening up massive, massive opportunities for Chinese brands to actually partner with local innovators, bring capital and expertise built up over the past few decades, and then create that synergy and explosive impact that the world wants to see. So that's really, really exciting. If you look at the demographical trends, you're seeing that essentially 60% of the world's farmland that hasn't yet been leveraged is still in Africa. You're seeing that if you just take one country such as Nigeria, there's a shortage of over 21 million homes. So with this rise in urbanization, with this rise in consumer growth and consumer spend, there's a need for homes. There's a need for affordable construction. There's a need for energy. There's a need for logistics. There's a need for innovation, food, agriculture, cold storage, and so forth. So there's at least 15 to 20, $1 to $10 billion opportunities where Africa needs support, needs FDI, and needs strong partners who can help accelerate that development that we've seen in other parts of the world. So this industrialization, urbanization, consumer-led growth is opening up tremendous opportunity. In terms of what China can offer to Africa, I think what China's done really well on a global level has been three things. Number one, it's been to innovate in a way that's really, really transformed business as we know it. So we've seen the rise of the super app. We've seen the success that Tencent and Alibaba have had with their global investment portfolio, with their instant messaging, instant payments, instant commerce solutions. And that is something that we're yet to see in Africa. So there's actually a massive, 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 massive opportunity for the Tencents and Alibabas and JD.coms of China to actually support, spearhead the curation of the African JD.com, Alibaba, and Tencents. So that opportunity will probably be written down in history as one of the biggest opportunities of the decade. So I believe that the innovation that Chinese market leaders have is something that could definitely assist and accelerate Africa's development. And it's definitely something that has transformed the world as we know it. The second one is just expertise in scale and speed of going to market. So in China, you have a fiercely competitive environment where the only way to succeed is to scale exponentially, to innovate aggressively, and to really reinvent business models on a continuous basis. And that the only constant change is change. The only constant theme is change. So that unique environment is something that would really benefit African entrepreneurs, African businesses, African economies, where we can actually learn from China across these areas. So that experience in terms of operating at scale is something that's amazing that we can definitely learn from, because Africa as a continent is the same size as China as a country. And the third thing is definitely capital. Like, I think what I really like and respect is that if you look at Tencent, which has over $350 billion worth of investments all over the world, like, I really love that Chinese brands have actually been really successful at accelerating FDI globally, investing into innovative brands all over the world, and essentially providing a fusion of innovation, capital, scale, and business model expertise. So that fusion has been one of the big success factors of portfolio companies backed by China succeeding all over the world. So I think that marriage of capital, scale, or experience in scale, innovation, and business model innovation is really what's going to be key to supporting Africa industrialize, scale, and emulate some of the success that China has had, shrinking rural poverty by 96% over the past 40 years is a miracle. Not many places around the world have achieved this. So I think Africa can learn a lot also when it comes to poverty reduction and the success China has had in that level. So I think politically, economically, social-wise, there's a lot that we can gain and learn when it comes to a strategic partnership between Africa and China.
Yeah, certainly. Having heard what you said, Africa is clearly at a big inflection point, and there's incredible opportunities for companies in general, but in particular for Chinese companies, right? But I could imagine there must be people or investors who are skeptical about Africa, right? Because not everybody really understands Africa. And so for those kind of people who are skeptical about the potential of Africa or how to do it right, how would you advise them? What would you say to them?
Yeah, sure. So I think Africa is similar to other regions in that it doesn't matter where you're investing anywhere in the world, you will naturally have to do your due diligence. So that's something that Gaofeng, Qianwasa can support with. But wherever you invest globally, the first step is to first look at the data and the growth trends and then do your due diligence. The second thing I would say is that Africa is not a country, right? It's a continent of 55 different countries, and every one of these countries have different political environments, different economic levels of growth, and there's even different languages, everything from French to Portuguese to English. And if you just take Nigeria, one country, there's over 3,000 different local languages. So Africa is a very sophisticated continent consisting of 55 countries. And the smartest strategy for investors in China is to actually look at where are the engines of growth. So in West Africa, that would be Nigeria as the number one anchor. And then there's also a lot of growth in Ghana and Ivory Coast. In East Africa, Kenya is the main driver for the local economy. But again, there's a lot of innovation in Rwanda. Ethiopia is sometimes called the China of Africa because of its love and passion for manufacturing and industrialization. For South Africa, the country, is the main driver. And then for Central Africa, again, Angola is where a lot of the growth is currently happening. And then for North Africa, there's Egypt, but Morocco is also a nation which attracts a huge amount of FDI and manufacturing. So a good strategy to de-risk the investment is to literally, first off, invest into anchor nations that control a lot of the growth and impact for each region in Africa. Second thing is due diligence. And then the third thing is essentially, if you look at the African Development Bank, and if you look at the UN, and if you look at global reports and insights, you actually see that Africa is not the most risky region for doing business. There's actually been more defaults coming out of some parts of Southeast Asia and Latin America. So when it comes to the level of political risk and the level of default, Africa is actually not the worst performer globally. Something that's helped a lot of companies succeed has been having political risk insurance, having that from their import-export authorities. So that's been something to help with risk management. But if you look at the general set of tools and principles that investors have to succeed in Africa, the region isn't too different from Southeast Asia or other parts of the world. You do your due diligence, you invest into tier one markets, which are responsible for 70 to 80% of the growth that's been experienced in Africa, and then have great partners. So partner with Gaofeng Advisory, partner with Chen Wassa, and partner with experts who know the local market, who have great connections and great relationships which can be leveraged on the ground. And that will assist you in terms of making the right investment decisions and succeeding on the ground.
Yeah, that sounds a very compelling story and a lot of upward potential for Chinese companies. So I guess finally, the last question I would have for you would be, given all that, given all the opportunities and given the potential and complexity of Africa, how can Chinese company grow exponentially in Africa and become market leader in Africa?
Yeah, sure, definitely. So I would say four things are key to sustained and exponential success. The first one is what's important is for Chinese companies to do what they already do in China in a way that creates African solutions to African problems. So Chinese brands will need to really have a key focus on innovation, because an innovative strategy is the only one that will seriously succeed on the ground in Africa. We've seen that companies from other parts of the world that have launched in Africa, that have cut and paste models from America or Europe, haven't succeeded in the way that they initially expected. And for Chinese companies to really grow exponentially, the biggest thing is going to be having an innovative business model that can really transform the way things are done in Africa. And that innovative business model has to be hinged on a African solutions to African problems narrative. And that can be shaped with Gaofeng and Chen Wassa. The second thing to really focus on in terms of unlocking exponential growth in Africa is saying we want to have a really, really, really big talent strategy where we exclusively work with the most entrepreneurial, dynamic, innovative, fast-moving, and pro-growth individuals across the continent. So a big thing in Africa has been capacity building and knowledge transfer, and the upskilling of individuals across Africa. So within that trend, you will find that there are certain individuals who are super innovative, super entrepreneurial, and all they really need is the right partner to flourish and succeed on the ground. And those individuals who are really massive innovators may lack capital, may lack mentorship, may lack global partners. So providing the other side of the partnership will empower these individuals to really succeed in a massive way. So the partnering with really dynamic teams and dynamic individuals and having a really strong, high caliber talent strategy is going to be one of the big pillars for success. The third thing I would say is you have to think, you have to think in a way that's pro growth whilst being pro impact. So you have to create a model or framework for success that acknowledges the infrastructural deficiencies in Africa. So if you just take infrastructure, Africa, according to the African Development Bank, there's a $80 to $90 billion funding gap on an annualized basis in Africa. So Africa needs another $80 to $90 billion worth of infrastructural investment to plug the gap. So your success strategy should include impact. How can you simultaneously improve the lives of tens or hundreds of millions of people whilst having an innovative strategy that can transform how business is done in a way that recruits and leverages dynamic innovators on the ground, whilst simultaneously gaining a great return on investment. So having a strategy that includes impact and sustainable impact is a great way to win the hearts and minds of government, of society at large. And then the fourth thing is, I would say, really analyzing futuristic trends and demographical trends. So, for example, if you have a strategy for agriculture, one of the big trends in Africa is that today the level of food imports are rising, but then up to half of all food produced at the farm gate is wasted due to a lack of cold storage and poor logistics. So if you are aware of the future trends and the path and trajectories that each sector is seeing over the next 3 decades, and you're currently aware of the state of the continent today, you can come up with a strategy that simultaneously solves the big infrastructural deficiencies that the continent faces today. And then you can also take advantage of trends as they play out over the next 3 decades. So what you'll see in most sectors is that where the sector is today is extremely and very noticeably different to where it's going to be a decade or 2 decades from now because of the level of exponential growth. So never look at a market as the entirety of the market is what you see. Look at the market a decade from now, as you've seen in China, and realize that if you can solve these infrastructural deficiencies today, the reward and payoff in 10 years will be hugely exponential.
I certainly agree. Having personally witnessed how China has grown over the last several decades, coming from a rather low base to now a reasonably large economy, that process was very impressive. But also, I think it's very much leverageable for the experience in Africa. And so, with that, thank you very much, Joshua, for all the valuable inputs and comments. And I do agree with you that for many companies, in particular for Chinese companies who have the aspirations to become, international, global, and to really explore the upward potential of Africa, there is a potential, a lot of potential out there, and it's a question of how do you do it right. So, thank you for your time, Joshua. And of course, for companies who are interested in inquiring into the services that, we provide in helping companies to grow exponentially in Africa, you're welcome to contact either Joshua at Tawasa or ourselves at Gaofeng Advisory Company. The contact information of our two firms are going to be listed at the end of this video. And so, please, go ahead and contact us if you're interested in talking to us about potentially, getting us, our help in exploring the potential in the African market. So with that, thank you, Joshua, and I appreciate very much your input. It's very, very exciting, very impressive, and very elaborate. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.